Thank you very much, Samson. And then before I get there, I want to take you back a little by just making it more clearer on what my sister spoke about, the history in Parliament. I see it to be more of a unique happening during the last administration or the selection of the Speaker of Parliament. We all saw what happened. It was unprecedented. Hung Parliament. Numbers were actually very, very critical in the process. And seeing what happened was only justified. And that, I find it needless for the president to have come openly to say, get this person to be the leader, instead of going through the electoral processes that we all expected. So, of course...
So you don't buy the explanation that honestly, this was intended to calm and avoid a repeat of 7th January 2021?
I have listened to other people from different countries, especially Nigeria, telling us that, look, you guys have done very well from our campaigning to election to post-election. This country has been largely peaceful, and there wasn't any need to say you are curbing tensions or you are putting mitigative factors to curb it.
Okay, your highlights on the...
Also on the
swearing in John and Jane.
I want to take it this way. I don't know if I can touch on your take before I progress.
My take is not for discussion.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add something, but it's fine. I'll leave it there. I want to look at the protocol, the flair of the program, then policy direction of President Mahama's speech. Looking at the protocol, I'll start with my brother, Prof. Abuche's point. You see, somebody told me again that, Rabbi, I got so intimidated, especially when I saw President Mahama holding Ibrahim Traore's hand. Did you see that?
He held almost everybody's hand.
No, he had a way he held his hand.
He held Baumia's hand. He held several others.
He had a way he held it. Okay, that's even quite low.
All right,
but
make your point.
Yes. Coming on there, I'm not a security person, but just a lay person's view. I think he having, like Prof said, the side pistol with his other security detail being heavily armed wasn't too good for us. Even the optics of it wasn't done well. Now the question is, what conversations went on between the national security, between the new government, and also, to some extent, the existing structures or systems, security-wise, that we have in this country? I would want to say, look, given the cheers he got, how louder the applaud went, and also bringing it to the fact that the NDC is coming from a tradition or history of coup and all that, I was like, okay, so those clapping so hard, what is in their mind? Was that a validation? Is that to say our young people would want to try that again?
They have said that even in official surveys, if you haven't heard, that they prefer military regimes to the democracies because the democracies are failing. They are not delivering the dividends.
That is also because when we do well to detach ourselves from working in silos and then coming together to work as a team for the bigger benefit of the country, then that confidence will come back. And then now we are resetting, isn't it? I just want to believe that this reset that Ghanaians are calling for, have called for, is going to come differently from what they didn't like, so that we can say, okay, we have that confidence back and nobody will be talking about coup versus democracy and all that, because I think democracy is certainly the way to go. And I heard Prof say he is sure the discussion that was held after would have motivated him to want to go back, and other leaders that came to say, okay, we want to really be more democratic like Ghana than what we are practicing. Flair of the program, I loved how the women appeared. I'm being gender biased, but that's fine. I saw Hajia Samira Bawumia, my own Samira Bawumia, my own beautiful Samira. She appeared in the African kente. Precisely
the usual
Ghanaian,
elegance.
Yes, so beautiful. And I sat there and was wondering how she would have stood there as a first lady. But God's time is the best. My sister was outstanding as well. She took to TikTok. We saw all that. We saw her at the grounds. Event organization, they got it well. 2016, a lot of their activities, including party reorganization, wasn't done too well. So I saw some benefits in losing from them. So that defeat, they got huge gap, moved them to the drawing board to say, what do we do? What do we get right? What do we learn from the NPP? And having learned how we do our branding, having learned how we do our stage craft and everything, I sat and said, wow, our guys have actually learned so well from the NPP. And that gave us that respect on the global scheme. People were happy with that. They said, look, Ghana, everything was top notch, except that of Ibrahim Traore, when people were talking or had spoken about. Going quite specific on the policy direction. Yes, talking about the thematic areas or key indicators, macroeconomy and all that. This got me. And then I being somebody from a pro-poor region, I would say this actually got me. And I read from what the president said. Quote, we need to look beyond temporary fixes to find lasting solutions for the complications we have experienced with power, water, and sanitation. We must continue to invest in our agricultural sector and grow our economy to that so that it leaves the bulk of our most crippling financial burden, especially among the poorest of the population. I'll end it here because I don't have to read on and on. Now, when I looked at it, I said, yes, we should be very particular and deliberate about pro-poor policies. We should look at how best we can implement certain policies or agenda in the country that would get women, children, and the vulnerable largely benefiting. The point here is sustainability. We have reset versus sustainability. And I'll go quite practical here.
Why is it versus?
Versus because we are for continuity and we were for continuity.
The Women's Bank is not sustainable?
Even my sustainability here is in context.
Okay.
And that is what or where I am coming. The point of mentioning agric, water, sanitation, and among others, is that when you look at even education first, before agric, gender parity is something this government will never stop talking about. And nobody can take that from President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in terms of education, free SHS to be precise. When you look at the boy-girl ratio enrollment at the senior high, we all saw 100 to 64. That says in every 100 students, or for every 100 boys, you would have had only 64 girls. And now it's gone the other way. It's a whole flip. 64 boys versus 64 boys versus 106 girls. Now, the young woman in Wulensi that I know personally, I don't know if it's okay to mention her name, but her father is probably watching this program because he told me he was going to watch it. She calls me her mentor. She got to come to Wesley Girls. I'm sure my sister went to Wesley Girls. And Wesley Girls is a school that every woman would want her girl child to go. And we all have seen the products of Wesley Girls in this country. Now, how did she get there? Access was made available. Now she graduates and comes home. Instead of now saying, okay, Rabi is the satellite person or Fatima Abukari is somebody we can look up to, the numbers have started increasing. And when you look at it long term, we are going to have more productive young women coming from the north and other parts of the country that would help in the growth of this country. And that is also zeroing to the economic growth of this country. Now, when we also look at agric, we did our best. We looked at irrigation farming. Even extension service officers from 2016, when we had about 2,000 extension service officers, and then it was 1:700 farmers, one officer to 700 farmers. Today, we can say that has increased to over 4,000 extension officers in the country. We can as well look at other areas. My point of sustainability is, yes, you are resetting. You want to reset. The speech, just like Prof said, Professor Asari and then Professor Abochi said, gave some hope. However, are we going to end it there? Are we going to see this current government doing what we call continuity of the good projects or programs that the government had rolled out? Because if you say, because I didn't start it, And a clear example is the Tamale International Airport. They ended up making runways, aprons, some lights on it, and all that, saying they had secured some funding to continue. Unfortunately for them, they went out of power. We came to continue. And when we even started it, that was the only time we started hearing what legacy project, legacy. But of course, that should have also been a plus for President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the government entirely. Because if somebody had started something good, then you come to continue, then it says that you are really doing good to the country. Prof. Asare got a bit carried away by most of the things the president said, talking about transparency, truth, aura, and all that. Yes, it's good. But I want to humbly tell him to, I like where he ended on the action thing. But I want to say, yes, he should actually give them some space. So we should be optimistic, but a little doubts would also help us.
Well, he was cautious.
Yeah, I saw that he was.
He made a point. And for those of us listening to him keenly and carefully, we could see what he was talking about. The advantage General Mahama has, having gone for a vacation and returned. And he speaks about Akufo-Addo, for example. Akufo-Addo came in, and civil society were doing their job in criticizing him. He looked at them in the face, called them to a meeting at the presidency, and said, I have ministers and whoever who are even better than some of you. So stop what you're trying to do. You don't know it all, and so on and so forth. You know, that kind of thing. And he's coming from a certain place.
That made me to agree with his points of action, his expectation. And he killed it by saying he would go back to get his pen when they start to misbehave. Now, I want to even expand that to what other Ghanaians also feel. The NDC came to sign a social contract with Ghanaians with a clear direction of 24-hour economy, with a clear formation of 1:33 or 1:3. Now, the statistics I have with me says clearly that as of February 2023, the public service employees that we had in this country was about 688,000. And then someone would tell you, even by close of 2024, we had moved to about 800,000. That is it. Now, the expectation is so clear that, and huge, that with this 800,000, granted we are even using the 800,000 figure, by the close of 2026, the young person who listened to the formation or the equation that was given 133 is expecting this figure to triple. Because if one job is to give you 3 employees, so we would have had times 3 of 800,000, which would have given you about what? 2.4 million Ghanaians getting new jobs. So that is expected.
All right.
Also, Samson, light is something that Ghanaians do want us to keep on.
Right.
And unfortunately, during the inaugural service, when the ceremony had finished, we had a minister designate currently, a brother of mine who has been around for some time in energy, coming out to press the fear and panic button, which I find very much needless at that time, because we had gotten the investor confidence back. We had gotten people who had their eyes on Ghana. We had gotten people
is on the transition team
who followed.
Energy.
Yes.
As you can see, he's been appointed to go there as a substantive minister. So if you are seeing that there are problems with the energy sector and that you were supposed, the NPP regime was supposed to have made some procurements for the purposes of keeping the lights on, and it wasn't done, and that it would take about, is it 8 weeks or so to have these things done, and he's telling the public, what's wrong about that?
Samson, with all humility, what I want to say is that he was there. He was a member of the committee. Instead of focusing on issues of his interests, with the real fact that the NDC is coming out of doomsday history, what I personally expected was clearly that he would be much interested in what goes into the transition processes concerning
Okay,
energy.
the president says there will not be doing so. They have taken the steps that have to be taken.
He had questions
and
to
this
ask.
will not happen. So thank you very much. Let's